All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to first episode. It works. First episode of Tabletop Truths. My name is Jordan. I'm going to here telling you a little bit about a board game, how it plays, what we think about it, and maybe give you a little bit of ideas on the next one you might want to pick up. Oh, there's my cat. My cat. Today I want to talk about Quadropolis. It's from Days of Wonder Games. It's a lot of fun. It's a city building tile placement game for 2 to 4 players. So not for your big groups, but there's a lot of strategy involved, a lot of different kind of fun dynamics you can take on as players. So yeah, let's check it out. Right. So here's what we've got in here. First off, if you are a bag person, this is the game for you. Look at all this stuff. There's just bags of arrows and squares, and there's even a bag included. There's little people, we've got little blue, green, and black people. We've got little blue people, which we'll get out in a second. We've got little red barrels. We've got instruction manuals. We've got colored boards and a shared sheet that we put all the tiles on, and colorful scoring cards, and even this is from my last game. There's even a sheet which you record your scores on. This is a lost art to the board game, and it's really a big part of what makes this game fun, that you're not tallying up the scores as you go. You're just kind of waiting till the end, and in your head you kind of know where you're scoring, but you don't really know until the game's over who won, and that's such a fun part of this game. But I mean, let me just pull out some of these tiles for you to look at. These are the different buildings you can make. You can make monuments and factories, which produce energy but require a person. You can make parks, which get rid of pollution at the end of the game. You can make office buildings, which take a person and an energy but give a ton of points. We get a whole bunch of them. We've got adorable little citizens of your town, and they're little citizens. They're little people. That's on my shirt. There we go. Little blue people, and you get tons of them. Just your cities can be overflowing with people, or energy, sweet energy. If you want to build, industrial metropolis, you can just fill up on this power plants and make tons of energy to power your city. So this game is it's colorful. It's a lot of fun to look at. So that's a big part of what makes it such a great game. But let's talk about the mechanics a little bit of it now, and see how it plays. So I'll set up a game and then talk about how a turn goes, so you kind of understand where you are headed. Right. So here's how a game of Quadropolis works. There are actually 2 different types of rule sets included in the game box. There is the classic rule set, which is just a grid of 4x4, and then there's the expert rule set, which has got the 4x4 grid with this straight line down the middle. If you are experienced at all with games, I would highly recommend that the instructions say to start on classic to learn the rules, but the rules change enough from classic to expert and classic's a little boring. I would say just start with expert if you know how to play games, especially if you've played a city tile placement like Suburbia or something like that. Nothing in this game is going to be that difficult for you to wrap your brain around. So this is a setup for 3 players. We've got a player board for each. Everyone should have a scoring sheet as well. And then the tiles for the first round, you know that it's for the first round because they have a 1 on the back. There's also a 2, 3, 4, and 5 for a grand total of 5 rounds. You don't flip over if you're only playing with 3 players. Some of them say 4 right here in the corner. So yeah, it says 4 in the corner. That means that doesn't get flipped over. That's a blank spot. Likewise, if you're only playing with 2 people, which I wouldn't really recommend, it kind of loses some of the strategy with 2 people. But some of them say 3 to 4. But those, if we're playing 3 players, they stay flipped. So the way a game of Quadropolis works is you place an architect, which are these little arrows with a number on them. You place 1 architect of each number for each player. So we have 3 of each architect because we have 3 players. And on your turn, someone is the mayor, indicated by this green fellow here. Pick your mayor however you want. On your turn, whoever is the mayor will decide what building they would like. And they will take an architect. So let's just decide, let's start simple and say I really want this factory right here. That's the one I want to get. So there's a few different ways I can approach this. I can take a 1 architect and I can put him right here, indicating that I count in 1 square from this side. Pick that up. If I wanted to, I could play a 2 right here. Likewise, count in 2 squares, pick that up. So obviously it would be a 4 from this side or 5 from this side. And if you can approach it from so many different numbers, why does it matter? That's a great question. When you look at your board, there are all sorts of numbers on your board. You have 5 different districts. 1, 2, this is hard to do. 3, 4 is this middle one, and 5 over here. You also have each square numbered individually in these, see the 1 up here, there's this 1 right here, there's this 5 over here, or that's a 3, excuse me. So whatever architect you use to play that square, you have to place it on a square that has that number. So if I played the 1 right here to pick this up, he would have to go either in District 1, anywhere in District 1 over here, or in any of these squares like this one that are marked 1, or this one that are marked 1. So even though that's not one district, I could put him right here, or I could put him right here. So that's where a lot of the strategy starts to come in. What numbers am I using to play these things? Because different tiles score in different ways, which we'll talk about in a second. The other kind of key to picking up tiles is when you do, you grab that tile, place it in your city, and then you put this little guy down here. He's called the urbanist, and that comes into play in a second. But these numbers on the top, or these things on the top of your tile, these 3 energy cubes up here, that means I pick up 3 energy for my resources. Towards the end of the game, if you want your things to score, you need to place your resources on whatever it takes. So a factory, you can see in the lower corner there, takes 1 person to activate at the end of the game and score points. So if I don't have a spare person I've collected throughout the game, I won't be able to use this to score. I'll still have the resources from it, but I won't be able to use it to score. And you might just think, well, just get all the resources. Resources count against you if you can't use them all at the end of the game. So you have to be thinking ahead lots of times. So after I pick up, place, all that stuff, the next person goes. But now, obviously, there's a few more caveats. First off, you can't place an architect over an existing architect, so they couldn't come in here and go, I'm going to take the 3rd one here. You also can't pick up anything, you can't place an architect in line with the urbanist. So you couldn't go here, you could not go here, you could not go here, because they can't point directly at the urbanist. So as the round goes on, as more and more architects come down here, and people start picking up more and more stuff, your options become more and more limited, because these architects disappear too. If all of a sudden these have been used, then there's no more 1s. So you, as the round goes on, you have to kind of plan ahead. What do you think people are going to take? What am I going to take? Who is going to get to go first next turn? Should I take this kind of weak tile that's got the mayor so that next turn I get to go first? There's so much to keep track of, and that's just in the rounds as you're building up your stuff. And then you come to the scoring. Okay, So finally, you've reached the end of the game. After you've played through 5 whole turns where everyone's used all their architects and placed all their buildings, you get to the scoring phase. So once you've, we were showing these earlier, this round 1, there's 5 sets of those tiles, each 1 through 5. Once you get to the end, you pull out the handy dandy little score sheet, which is just so fun. Games don't have these anymore. And then you pull out your how things work sheet. So all the different buildings in the game have a type. Like this one in the corner there, it's got the little house. This one in the corner, it's got a little leaf. It's a park. Harbors and all that stuff. So as the game goes, they're worth different points depending on how you set them up, like most city building games. So houses, for example, over here in the yellow, you can see they stack on top of each other. You can actually build housing district or like apartment buildings essentially. They're 5 stories high. When they're just 1 story, you can see it's only worth 1 point, 1 lousy little victory point. But if you build a house all the way up to 5 stories tall, it's worth 15 points. So if you spread those all out, that would only be worth, 5 housing tiles would only be worth 5 points because they'd be spread out. But if you put them on top of each other, it is worth 15 points. Parks need to be surrounded by houses or office buildings in order to get their highest score. So if on all 4 sides a park is surrounded by either a house or an office, it's worth 11 points. Shops, you can fill all the people that you get from houses. Usually, shoot, I'm losing my tiles here. Some houses are worth up to 3 people you get in your city, and you could fill your shops with those extra people. You just plop them in there, and all of a sudden you got these nice shops that are worth 11 points. They're filled with people, and it just goes on and on. Factories, municipal buildings, harbors, offices, which you just want to spread out everywhere, make them tall and spread out, huge office districts, and finally monuments, which are worth more points depending on more or less points. They can actually lose points depending on what buildings surround them. So you go through at the end and you're adding up all the points for every player. You go all the way down and then all the way down. How many points do you get for this? How many points do you get for this? And then some tiles even are worth, like this one, you even get an extra, rather than get a person or a energy cube, you actually will get a victory point at the end of the game. So you add those in with this. And then finally, any extra resources you have. So if you've got 2 extra energy sitting around that you can't lose, you actually lose 1 point for each one of those. So you have to have planned so far ahead, how can I use all these resources I've built up? And then finally, you go through, and you crown a winner. The true mayor of Quadropolis, I suppose, is what you could call that winner. And they get to wear the little green man on their head or whatever because they are the mayor. But yeah, that's all there is to it. And it's so simple to play and explain. There's really not much to a game like this. But that's what makes it so good, because there is so much to a game like this. This is a game that the more people play, if you get up to 4 players, you really have to specify. Maybe you're going to be the house and shop place. Maybe you're going to go all offices all the time and just go with enough resources to power those office buildings. That's one other important element. At the end here, what we said, you've got to stock your different buildings. Like this takes a person to run this factory. And before anything happens at the end of the game for scoring, if you've got a building that isn't powered either by a person or the houses take energy, you can see down here, or the offices take one of both. If you've got a building that isn't powered by your resources, it flies off your board and you don't get anything for it. You don't get any of the benefits for it being adjacent to stuff. You don't get any of the benefits for it filling up parts of your districts. You don't get anything for it. So you want to have just enough resources that you can max out your points. But if you have too many, it starts to screw you over. And if you have too few, it starts to screw you over. So there's a ton of systems that work perfectly together with Quadropolis. And that's really what makes it so strong. I'm obviously, you can tell, I like this one. There you have it, folks. That's Quadropolis. Now, obviously I recommend it. It's a great game, especially for someone who's never really played a city builder before. This is a really good, really streamlined, easy to follow, but complicated, tough to really master city builder. So I can't recommend enough for that type. And it's really fun too. You know, I consider myself a pretty strong gamer, and I see a ton of value in Quadropolis. I've already played it several times. How does it stack up to others that are like it? Well, I mentioned Suburbia earlier. Suburbia is good. Suburbia is a very good game, and it's complicated. It's more complicated, I would say, than Quadropolis. Um, the one thing I would think that Quadropolis has, well, two things actually, I would say Quadropolis has over Suburbia. First off, I think it's prettier. You know, it's got these bright colors. It's got these, you know, little blue people, and it's really crafted well. Not that Suburbia's isn't, but I think Quadropolis is a little more pleasing to look at. Second off, you don't get lost in the minutia of the game. With Suburbia, I've had games where I get to the end and I lose by like 2 points, and I'm like, I wonder if I missed a point here or a point there, because every time somebody plays a hex in Suburbia, everyone stops and you have to say, okay, I played house, and now look, do you have any things that are affected by houses? Do you have any things that are affected by houses? And with Quadropolis, you don't do that. The game just goes. And you have a strategy, and you're trying to figure out their strategies, but you don't have to stop every time somebody does something and say, wait a minute, okay, now what? So I really like that it flows better than Suburbia, I think. For that reason, I think I would recommend Quadropolis over Suburbia. You can't go wrong with either one, but really, it seems to me, as far as games I've played, that Quadropolis is the one to beat right now. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, even though it's very complex, it's tough to master. Or it's very simple, excuse me. It's a very simple game to play and explain, but it's tough to master. When you get down to those last few, you know, architects, you know, there's only 2 twos left, and you're like, what do I do? I don't want any of these buildings. What can I do to stop someone? When you get down to the end of the game and you're like, I want to put this one house right here, but I can't get it unless they... There's so many mind games, so many little tricks that go into a game of Quadropolis. So I can't recommend it enough. It's 2 thumbs up plus a couple pinkies, I guess. And of course, I wind up giving a shaka in my first review. Thanks for watching Tabletop Truths. My name's Jordan. I'll have some more of these up soon. I like doing these, and I'd love to show off my extensive board game collection to you all and give you some more recommendations for games you can teach your friends. So until next time, it's been fun. Thanks a lot. See you.
Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw here, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff that you would normally do. You can find me on Twitter at Jordality. It's like fatality, but my name's Jordan, so, you know, makes sense. And check out my YouTube channel. I've got other good videos up. I don't just do board games, I do video games as well, so you can find all sorts of good gaming content there. If all you're interested in is the board game side of things, then head on over to tabletopgameandhobby.com, which is the site I write for, and it's a shop right here in Kansas City where I live. It serves all your tabletop gaming needs. There's got tons of blog stuff over there, tons of hobby stuff for you to peruse at your discretion. So thanks again for watching. My name's Jordan. We'll see you soon.